I'm Leslie Irvin with the Association of Clinical Research Organizations. Today I'm joined by Neil McCullough, Vice President of Global Quality and Compliance at PPD. Welcome, Neil.
Hello, Leslie.
Can you tell us a little bit about your role at PPD?
Sure, Leslie. I have global responsibility for ensuring quality and good research practices across all phases of our clinical development services and all aspects of laboratory services, the integrity of global clinical supply chain quality, and I report into the Office of the Chief Executive.
And didn't you recently complete some graduate work in bioethics?
Yes, I believe strongly in continuing professional development, and last year I graduated with a Master of Science degree in Pharmaceutical Medicine at Hibernia College in Dublin, where I specialised in exploring the bioethical parameters surrounding the issue of unfettered access to experimental drugs for the seriously and terminally ill, otherwise known as compassionate access. I also hold a PhD in chemistry, and I'm a chartered chemist with the Royal Society of Chemistry.
What are the ethical standards for conducting clinical trials?
Well, clinical research is a highly regulated enterprise. The key bioethical tenets in any clinical trial should include the respect for patients, otherwise known as autonomy, beneficence, non-malfeasance, and justice. These standards have evolved over the last 100 years or so to ensure patients are protected as medical research has advanced. The main sources of guidance are the International Ethical Guidelines for Biomedical Research Involving Human Subjects, which is issued by the Council for International Organizations of Medical Sciences, as well as the local laws and regulations of the countries, and international guidelines including the International Conference on Harmonization Good Clinical Practices Guidelines, otherwise known as ICH-GCP, to which PPD and the other ACRO members adhere. CROs, the sponsors we work with, ethics committees, and the international regulatory bodies share commitment to high ethics and quality in global clinical research.
Are these standards employed worldwide?
Yes, they are, Leslie. Most countries have adopted Good Clinical Practices Guidelines, ICH-GCP, with some local appendices, and this provides standardization. Most countries ensure the adequate protection of the rights and welfare of human participants through the four parties who share such responsibilities: the ethics committees, the data monitoring committee or the data safety and monitoring boards, the sponsor, and the medical professionals conducting the clinical trial or the investigator. Of course, it's essential to continuously monitor these responsibilities, thus ensuring the research is conducted as planned.
More research is being conducted in emerging markets like India and China. Are the ethical standards there the same?
Yeah, in India and China, as well as countries like Brazil, Russia, and Korea, they have large populations and medical infrastructures that make them appealing for conducting research. These countries find clinical research to be an attractive economic investment that also contributes to their healthcare systems. Thus, they have adopted and adapted ICH-GCP standards to meet their cultural needs. For example, the difference between Chinese and global standards is relatively little, and there are over 250 hospitals in China that have government approval to conduct clinical trials. These hospitals are carefully checked by the government, and such checks include how informed consent is handled, and there's a good record of being able to register true informed consent from patients. For drugs to be approved, governments require local clinical trials, which require regulatory agency and ethics committee approval in these countries. As an organisation, ACRO is conducting research on the quality and ethical standards of global clinical trials, and to date we've generally found no differences in quality or ethical standards across regions.
Do the regulatory bodies in the United States and Europe, the FDA and the EMA, accept trial data from countries in emerging markets?
Yeah, most new drug approval applications today include data from many countries, and this data is widely accepted by the FDA and the EMA. Further, the FDA and the EMA work with regulators in other countries on inspections, training programs, and other types of information sharing.
What are your concerns, if any, about conducting trials in emerging markets?
Well, it's questionable now whether India and China can be referred to as emerging markets for clinical research. And countries such as Brazil and Korea have faster approval times, and in the case of Korea, there are government-assisted programs designed to facilitate easy access into the country. These and other non-traditional countries are playing an ever-increasing role in drug development. Some natural concerns are the fair selection of subjects, the availability and adequacy of ethics committees, and the number of trained study personnel, of course. However, with the adoption of ICH-GCP, good clinical practices overall, and the growing availability of trained research professionals, and the expanded regulatory infrastructure, the challenges of conducting clinical trials in the emerging markets are shifting from concern about quality and bioethics to feasibility and speed of enrolling patients into clinical trials.
Any final thoughts, Neil?
Well, keep in mind that the vast majority of people who participate in clinical trials are also suffering from the condition that's being studied. Large global CROs, such as PPD and the other ACRO members, have really driven the development, standardization and quality controls necessary to conduct ethical and high-quality global trials. Globalization means that new treatments are getting to the patient sooner, all over the world.
Thank you, Neil. To find out more about ACRO, please visit acrohealth.org or follow us on Twitter @ACROHealth.